so thankful that you are joining me today, Shawn. It's such an honor. I really admire the work that you're doing and everything that you're doing in the recovery field for veterans, the ministry. And so, without further deliberation, and thank you for your patience too, welcome to SOS, Survivors of Stalking. This is a small sort of grassroots awareness campaign about the impact of stalking, harassment, and legal abuse, and how it can proliferate post-traumatic stress disorder. It becomes a burden upon the mental health and Department of Public Health system, and how we as individuals can use our voice to amplify the silenced, to highlight people who are victims and survivors, how it correlates to the family court system and civil court system. And so we can help other people, including giving tactics to fight back and sharing our own stories of survival and success. So
Absolutely, it's my honor, and thank you, Libby, for all the sharing of the social medias. And
yes.
so yeah, we're here for change. That's bottom line what we're here for. We're here for change, and to call out. I believe we're called to hold those that are seated in seats of leadership. We're called to hold those accountable,
Yeah.
because they have a great responsibility, and the great responsibility is that you're dealing with people's lives. You are making life and death situations, and I say that in a spiritual sense and in an earthly sense. I mean, it really is a problem. I can't remember if I talked about this last time we spoke, but here in Tuscarawas County in Ohio, we have a really high death by suicide rate. And we had at one point in 2024, we had, I believe, I know we had at least 3 death by suicides in 1 week, and they were all men, and they all had court cases within the
Oh
court
my God.
system.
Oh my God.
And by the end of that week, we ended up having 5, and I can't remember if they all 5 had court cases actively in the court system. But it is a problem, and we, like I said, we have to hold those accountable for making life and death decisions.
Absolutely. I think, just to give you some background, what I went through in the court system didn't actually have to do with my family. I did go through a difficult separation and divorce process with my ex-husband, but through lots of therapy and anger management classes and, AA and things like that, lots of counseling and just lots of self work and soul searching, we were able to come out on the other side. But I would never wish that upon him ever, ever,
Yeah.
because the damage that you do to your co-parent will happen to your children. It
Right.
will affect your children.
Right.
And so I think that's a huge component of that. I really worked hard to never put my co-parent in that position. So
Right. I think it's important. I mean, obviously, um, you know, there's not just one person in the
well,
story. It's
well,
it's your children, and how is that going to have a long-term effect on them? And I I've been going through it for 10 years now.
yeah,
So it really is, you have to take yourself out of the equation and look at the future and say, hey, listen, there's other lives at stake here. I have to be unselfish and realize that. And what's the best interest for the kids? So
yeah.
absolutely.
And I think one of the reasons why I started to do this awareness campaign, the podcast, the social media work, the work with the court system, the work with other victims and survivors, is because what I saw is that the court system is supposed to be set up to protect people. And
Right.
instead, what ends up happening is oftentimes the survivor, the victim, is actually the one that is not protected, or the system can be used to abuse.
Right.
Legal abuse is now a subset of the post-traumatic stress disorder spectrum. It's in the DSM now. And so what happens is individuals that are could be completely healthy and may not have had a history of any mental health issue, but then were thrown into the family court system or just even the civil court system, can experience post-traumatic stress disorder as a result.
Yeah. I mean, for example, what I'm going through is so I can't even get an attorney.
Yeah.
No attorney will take me on for the simple fact that I'm actually, you know, not paying the guardian ad litem. The
Yeah.
guardian ad litem is failing to do her job. And so I've been through this multiple times now and I know how they work. And so when I refuse to go along and play in their system that's broken,
Yeah.
the 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 attorneys see that or they hear that when I tell them that and they refuse to even they won't even take my money. Like I've offered to pay attorneys, pay their
Yeah.
their fees and whatnot, and they refuse to even take me on because of
Wow.
that. So it's I mean, I'm been pro se for the most part. I had an attorney early on and then I started to, quote unquote buck the system
Yeah.
and that's kind of where I'm at right now is being pro se and trying to use all the AI possible.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because the advent of AI, just being in the even the last couple of years, has been really phenomenal for people that don't have access to legal representation, may not have specific training in the writing, the legalese, the jargon. At the
Right.
same time, as with any software program, there's always going to be flaws, and AI can create fake situations. It can have what is now termed hallucinations in the IT world, which can really bury a person legally because, this has happened even in the case that I was a party of. One of the things that the person harassing me did was, and they did this to many other people, was they filed a lawsuit in federal court, a RICO lawsuit, accusing us of being a part of an organized crime syndicate. Now, as a person who is very high moral compass, really high character, quality of character, never been arrested in my entire life. The only crimes I ever committed were probably, underage drinking and things from college days.
Right.
I was flabbergasted because, how could someone get away with doing that? And you
Right.
could tell right away that the documents that were being submitted had been created through some sort of software, some sort of AI, um, production. And eventually it started to come up with hallucinations, and that actually ended up hurting the person that filed it. There were sanctions put on the person, but it had, beyond that, it has helped many, many people because many of us don't have the educational background, in law. I didn't finish law school. I never passed the bar. I
Right.
don't know. I have some basic paralegal training, and things like that as well. I have some basic training, a little bit, I did pre-law and I was one semester at law school, but even then, I do not have the technical skill. And maybe it's also a timing issue. Many of us, and yourself included, we're working full-time jobs and we're doing volunteer work on the side.
Right.
You have created this beautiful ministry that is your priority. it shows how much of an angel you are and how much you're doing for other people. Redeem 22 is a big deal, and it's successful. I see it. People are attending the events, they're benefiting from the services that you're providing, and they're reconnecting to Christ, which is a
Right.
beautiful thing. That's a beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how is a person like yourself going to manage writing 20-page legal briefs?
Right. Yeah. It's thank you for the words for the ministry. But yeah, I mean, it's not only timing. I would say obviously it's monetary, you
Yeah,
know. Not all of us have, you know, 20, 30, $50,000 to hand over to an attorney, you know. It's just
right.
not plausible. So, you know, my time and my money, you know, goes into this case. But yeah, like you said, God started a full-time ministry through me, and that's where most of my effort is geared towards, is, you know, loving God first, obviously, and then
Yeah,
loving people. And so, you know, you know, the ministry has been successful. We've been starting taking veterans up to Top Golf every month, and just getting them out of the house and getting
I
them
love
out of
that.
that isolation, and just loving on people, just trying to be Jesus the best I can. So, but yeah, as far as, you know, how, you know, how AI affects that, I mean, that it's a time saver for sure, and where I can, you know, invest in people more often, invest in people, and time in people more often.
I think another thing too is you know, when we're using AI, it comes up with it's a thought, it's the fact patterns that it comes up with. It compiles information in a specific way. And if your comprehension and your computation is shot because you're dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder and anxiety related to your court case, or in many of our circumstances, for example, you did multiple tours of combat, you were in active duty, armed service, you also have experienced other trauma. I have experienced trauma beyond this in my personal life, going back to childhood.
Right.
And I think a lot of folks going through this situation sadly share that same experience. And it's normally because as children, as young adults, as we're growing up, our brains are developing, we're going through this trauma, and then we're attracted to the same trauma. We end up
Right.
cohabitating and reproducing with more traumatizers because that's what we know in
I
our
hate to
lives.
admit, I hate to admit that you're right, Libby, but I would tend to agree with that. Because it's not a good, it really isn't a good thing. I mean,
Yeah.
we go through trauma, because I have childhood trauma. I'm very open about my trauma. I was molested when I was a very young age, when I was 5 years old. And you know, in so going through that, and going through I went through a 5-year court case, going through that. And, you know, that the person that was charged with this got off scot-free. That did
Oh
this to
my
me got
God.
off scot-free. And so I dealt with a lot of anger, you know, growing up, and a lot of and that carried over into my adulthood, and then, you know, time in the military, you know, first. And, you know, I don't want to say, you know, everybody has, you know, their stuff, everybody
Mhm,
has their
mhm.
trauma, and all veterans deal with trauma coming back from war in their own personal way. And, you know, I wasn't, you know, on the front lines per se, but I did have my time of danger.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
so, you know, and then dealing with trauma from that, coming back and making that transition to civilian life from military life. It's one of the hardest things that I've ever gone through in my entire life. And I don't wish that on anybody, but veterans go through that. It's something that we
Yeah.
have to go through that. And it's, and we deal with it our own way. And sometimes it's not the prettiest way of dealing with things, but that's the only way we know how. And that's why the ministry is so important to me
Mhm.
right now, because I don't want my brothers and sisters going through that again. And I don't want, and I've come to a place and seen my brothers and sisters that I've personally served with lose a battle within.
Yeah.
And I can't stand that. You know, the enemy wants us to stay in isolation. The enemy wants us to stay in the past. You know, the John 10:10, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Jesus has come so that you may have life and life abundantly. And so I just challenge veterans every day, all the time that I talk to. I challenge you to live. Jesus says live and have life abundantly. Get out of that basement, get out of that isolation, step out, you know, and that's everybody that has dealt with trauma.
Yeah.
Obviously we know PTSD is not limited to military. It's everybody. You know, you've been through trauma. Everybody has been through traumatic experience. And, you know, it's how we can react to those things and how we, man, you know, I love Rocky, man. Rocky has got
Yeah.
some
So good.
motivational lines in it. So it's not how, like that one line in the movie where he says, it's not how hard you can get hit, or it's not how hard you hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Um, and that's so true in life. You know, we have to have that support system and the people that we can lean on. And, you know, not necessarily it's not always, you know, blood family. You know,
Right.
I have people that I call family that aren't blood family. And you know, it's just awesome how God works, and God aligns certain people in your life and brings people in your life to you know, who really mean a lot to you. So
And I would
um
love to talk about that too, because I think one of the things that was really hard for me when I was going through the legal abuse, and I'm still being stalked and harassed, even as of today. What are some things that we can talk about and share with people on how to arm yourself? What is the support system, the toolbox that works? What can we do? What can we share with others about what we went through? I would love to hear that from you, because I want other people to listen to this, to hear this and think, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to look for these people. I'm going to look for the support.
right. I would just say you're not alone.
Yeah.
Whenever you think that you're alone, that, you know, it's only me going through this, because early on in all of my coming out of everything, I started going to Celebrate Recovery, which is
Yes.
a Christ-centered 12-step recovery program. Because I dealt with alcohol, I dealt with a lot of things transitioning out of military, and dealing with, you know, not seeing my kids every day, going through the court systems with all that. Um, yeah, it's people, places, and things. It's
Yeah.
people, places, and things. You know, it's who you surround yourself. I heard a quote one time, and it says, "You are who you are with the things that you surround yourself with." So, you know, it's the music you listen to, it's the movies you watch, it's the stuff you read, it's the people that you surround yourself with.
Hmm.
Um, you know, it's just having that positive mindset, and looking yourself in the mirror and making the "I love you" statements, you know,
Yeah.
just loving yourself, learning to love yourself again. Because I know, if you're anything like me, if anybody's listening, you're reacting anything like I did, it was, what did I do to cause this? What did I do to, you know, bring this type of negative attention to myself?
Right.
And so it's, you really got to get out of that mindset. And to me, and how I was able to do it is just get on my knees and surrender my heart to Jesus. And he really began to change my heart. And you know, my heart was hardened at that time. So
Mhm.
whenever I did that, and, you know, the Bible says he'll take your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. So
Which is
yeah, it's
incredible. I mean, I think faith and religion in general is an incredible way,
yeah,
because you can speak to God at any point in time. You
amen, yeah,
can speak from your heart. You can go, you can go to a church, you can go to a temple, you can go to something like that, but you can do it If you're at your lowest point and you can't get out of bed, you still have prayer. You still have your
Mhm.
connection to your higher power.
Mhm.
Additionally, you know, when you're going through the family court process and you're working with a therapist and a provider, I think many people are guarded because they're scared to say certain things that they may be feeling, even if it's just an intrusive thought, because they don't know what impact it's going to have on their case. As we know, mental health can often be weaponized against people in the
Oh,
court
for sure.
system.
Absolutely.
When
Yeah.
you are going through a personal injury suit and you're suing someone for damages, you're going to be evaluated for mental health reasons, and they're going to take everything, and they're going to I mean, it's all going to be analyzed. But when you're in family court, it's so different.
Mhm.
You have to be a fit parent. You have to be a functioning adult. The weakness can work against you. So why is that?
Well, in
I mean,
the court systems are set up right now, and family court specifically are set up not based on anything factual. You can have parent A make a statement about parent B, and it's just they run with it,
yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
there's not. So I've I've um I've told the court, like, listen, like, I will submit to a lie detector test
Yep.
and do everything to prove, my story. And we don't need that, and the this court is not going to allow that.
Oh my
And
God.
I just it boggles my mind how things have gotten. I mean, it's completely a breakdown of due process,
Hmm.
just a violation of due process and civil rights. And that's just what we have to fight. We have to fight that, and unfortunately, it feels like an uphill battle.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It
But
is, but
we have to stand for truth.
yeah. I mean, the same thing happened to me, and it wasn't a co-parent. It wasn't a former partner. It wasn't even really a former friend. It was just someone I had a former acquaintance.
Yeah.
And I saw red flags in their behavior. They were making me feel uncomfortable. They were asking me to do things like babysit their kids. I had only met them a few times. They wanted me to drive all the different places. They wanted me to intervene in their custody issue. I told them to leave me alone. And the, reactive attachment disorder that the person likely has kicked in and spiraled out. And
Mm.
so I mean, things about me that were said in court, that I do drugs, that I have guns, that I threaten people, that I have that I traffic children. I'm a part of a organized crime syndicate that traffics children. That I and this was in a court document that was submitted in federal court
Hmm.
about someone else losing custody. There was an accusation that was made about me that I lied about being sexually assaulted. What did that have to do? What did those lies even have to do with someone else's custody case?
Right.
I think I
Yeah.
was lucky because that absurdity and those like that defamation actually worked against the person.
Yeah.
But it took a while, and those documents were out there, publicly shared many times with many people, colleagues of
Mm.
mine, organizations that I was going to partner with,
Yeah.
organizations that I was going to get funding from,
Mm-hmm.
people that I respected and looked up to were seeing these lies about me
Mm-hmm.
in court documents.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the funny thing is that there are regulations and laws about perjury and about fraud, and
Yeah.
nobody enforces them.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's the problem. Is we is all these politicians are saying, yeah, we need reform in family court. There was some legislation proposed about family court reform in the state of Ohio, and
Yes.
it was stupid. It had no grounding. I'm like, listen, all this stuff is there. You're not enforcing it. And so
Yeah.
I reached out to our state rep, who
Hmm.
is a friend of mine, and
Wonderful.
I was like, hey, I can't back this legislation. And she's like, I know. It started out good, and then it didn't.
Yeah.
So she dropped from supporting it, so which was good.
Well, I think that's another important thing we can talk about. I definitely want to get back to like the support systems, but I want to definitely talk about what can you do to work with the system? Who do you call? I love the fact that you said that you have a good relationship with your state rep. Ohio is a big state. That's a big state. It's a lot of people there. A lot more than Connecticut, I'll tell you that much.
um,
um,
so I would just say make friends with your county commissioners,
yep, that's a
make
good one.
friends make friends with people in high places.
Yeah,
And it's not about proving at that point. It's not about proving your side, because
right.
you can't do that,
No,
because everybody's mindset is, okay, there's two sides to every story. And then you get the people that say, well, there's three sides to every story. There's your side, their side, and then the truth. I'm
right.
like, but so there's legislators out there that know that there is a problem within the family court system.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of there's a few legislators here in the state of Ohio that's working on family court issues. So I would that's as far as that goes. Just, who you got to make friends with. Just do your research and to your state politicians, and yeah, go
yeah.
from there.
I went to the attorney general
Yeah,
in my state,
there you go.
because one of the things that was being done to me was social cyberbullying, social media harassment, cyberstalking, and doxing.
Wow.
And louder for the people in the back. It is illegal to cyberstalk. It is illegal to post people's addresses. It is illegal to encourage your followers to harass people. It goes beyond just defamation, right?
Wow.
And so I went to the attorney general, and I went to the attorney general in the state of Connecticut is the governing body that oversees the Department of Consumer Protection. So the Department of Consumer Protection unit started to advocate for me. I
Mm.
I got a personal letter from Spotify apologizing and admitting negligence on their part. I've
Wow.
gotten at least 50 to 60 different pieces of content, probably across maybe even more, probably more close to 100 now pieces of content removed for sharing personal information about me, sharing altered AI, or either AI or doctored altered information about me, and sharing my home address where my
Wow.
children and I reside.
Wow.
Yeah. So if this is happening to you, because this often happens, someone will be harming you in family court, and then they post about it on social media. I'm not sure if this is what happened to you, but um, that's what happened to me. Started
Mm.
posting about me on social media,
Mm.
and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. The platforms often won't take them down just for mere bullying and harassment, even though
Right.
blatantly, I mean, blatant
Right.
bullying, blatant harassment. And you just want to be left alone.
Right.
Talk to
Yeah.
your attorney general.
Okay.
I think that's huge. I went to my a former boss of mine when I was doing consulting work is works with the government doing campaigning, oversees campaigns, and was and chief of staff doing chief of staff work for campaigns. Knew the attorney general William Tong in the state of Connecticut, And I was able to get pretty quick results.
Mm.
But the problem is that what does that mean for court though? What do you do? Do you say, how does family court interact with the Department of Consumer Protection? If you have an attorney, a staff attorney from the state's attorney general's office saying you were doxxed and they acted negligently, what do you do? How do you bring that into family court? You know, there's a big one that I've seen a lot of people do that is very abusive is they will take pictures off of other people's social media profiles. So say it's your ex co-parent who is out to get you. They'll go to your social media profile. Maybe it's a picture of you doing ministry work, and they will take it and then use it on their own to slander you. But that goes beyond just slander. That
Mm-hmm.
is a copyright violation.
Yeah.
The DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, protects things that you post, that you took, that you created. If you take pictures of yourself, it cannot be used without or redistributed without your permission.
Mm.
That I mean, that's the cold hard facts. You own the copyright to that.
Yeah, that's good information there.
Yeah, because if you have people that are slandering you and maybe they're not worth a penny, they're not even worth a dime for you to go after them in defamation or, you know, for a civil suit, you can take them down that way. And
Mm.
you can even hold the platforms accountable.
Yeah.
I've been talking to some lawyers about doing that
Mm.
because, you know, this, it should not, I mean, in most states, court records and court documents are private. You can't even access that. Like in the state of Connecticut, you can see the docket, but you have to go down to the courthouse and fill out an FOIA just to even get access to it. And they may not necessarily grant it, especially if
Huh.
there's children involved or accusations of abuse. They won't even grant it. My records were completely sealed because I had been a survivor of physical abuse and sexual assault. So you can't even get access to the records. But it's the attorney general's office, believe it or not, because a lot of people send information to the attorney general and say, I'm being family court this, but they what is their jurisdiction to intervene? However,
Right.
if you are being stalked and harassed in other ways, for example, you're getting a lot of people get prank calls or spam calls or, you know, harassing emails.
Right.
Maybe the law enforcement can't do anything about that, but the attorney general can speak to the phone carrier. The Department of Consumer Protection can speak to the email provider to stop the behavior. People don't
Huh.
realize that, but they you most states have a way for you to submit a claim either in writing or by calling or by going in person or going to their website. So if somebody is doing that to you, if you're listening in, or if somebody is doing this to you, this is how you get justice.
Hmm.
It's not going to be through the law enforcement. It's not going to be through court.
See, that's funny. You think they'd be the other way around.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm very pro cop. You know, my ex-father-in-law was a cop for 25 years. Um, and that's where I tend to differ from like when I with from my like progressive Democrat friends. I'm very progressive in many ways, but I'm a hard supporter of cops. Cops have a difficult job.
Yeah.
Cops, veterans, first responders, I support those individuals, the good ones. We know, the good ones. We like the
Right.
good ones, right?
Yeah. There's bad apples everywhere you go. So.
Oh yeah, especially
Uh.
in this field. So, and I think another thing too is when it comes to support system is I was able to work with a nonprofit law firm.
Oh.
I'm
Okay.
sure I'm not sure if that's a route that you ever went as a veteran. I know you would be eligible for services. Many people could be eligible for free or reduced legal representation through their employer. If you work for a large employer, they may have an employee assistance program.
Yeah. Yeah. I know there's a lot of employers out there that have the EAP program. Yeah.
It's worth a
Yeah.
shot.
So they had. I. Uh. I tried to go that route, and unfortunately they did not have. I couldn't get any help there.
Okay.
Um. first off, the one that I worked with was a nonprofit, but they could only help with filing paperwork.
Oh, okay.
They
Very,
couldn't
very
help with,
helpful.
yeah, right, yeah, they couldn't help with any representation, and they were actually funded by the IRS,
Wow.
and
Okay.
so
Okay.
a lot of it was like, so I had some tax issues that went with my case, along with my case,
Yes. Yes.
and
Yeah. Which is very
so
common.
yeah, and so they ended up. I actually had better results actually directly contacting IRS
Very good.
than
Yeah.
going through this nonprofit, because the nonprofit was funded by the IRS. I was like, I don't know. It was weird. It
You
was
don't
weird
even want to
because
know. I don't want to know the spider webs.
yeah, we could go down that, and it was definitely an interesting rabbit hole for sure. But yeah,
Well, I'm so thankful for your time. Definitely, if you have anything in closing that you want to talk about, I would love to have you on again. Maybe make this a regular thing where we can go live. We can just do recorded sessions, anything that we can do to work with people. And because I think that would be phenomenal. Let's keep the conversation going. I love the
absolutely.
work that you're doing in ministry. I'm so thankful for what you're doing for veterans in Ohio. It's going to get messy. We're in an active war again. There's men and women
Hmm.
are going to be coming home to their families and going through this again. And we're going to need you, Shawn. The country needs you. Folks need you. Please keep in touch. Let's work together on social media. Let's be loud and proud about what we're doing. I would love to have you on again. So keep the conversation going. And certainly, if you know of anyone else that wants to tell their story about how they were harassed, how they went through family court, so how they were stalked, how they were legally abused, send them my way because we are the SOS signal survivors of stalking.
All right. Awesome, Libby.
Yes,
Absolutely. And if you're out there and you're going through any of this that we're talking about today, just don't give up. Just don't give
please.
up. You know, you're if you're going through family court, your kids are counting on you. They love you. And I know at times they don't think you might not think that, but there is a relationship there, and it's going to happen one day. So just keep the faith, keep strong, keep pushing forward, and keep tuning into people like Libby and myself. And if I mean, reach out. You need that support system, and we can definitely be part of that support system.
Thank you so much, Shawn. God bless you and everything you're doing. And hopefully we get to meet in person someday. And I wish you all the best. Have a great rest of the weekend.
Absolutely.
Bye
Thanks, Libby.
now.
Bye.